Aikido?
Aikido is the blending of energies for a healthful and well time of life and existence. So what we're doing here is when we are quote unquote attacked with certain techniques, rather than fight against them, we can go with them, and out of that, what happens is a healthful way of living. So I'm not concerned with attacking, I'm not concerned with defense, but the joy of life and living.
Well, that's a good segue then. What exactly is an attack? What does it look like?
Let me show you here. Maybe you can explain what I'm doing. So what does it look like? Okay. So very simply. So let's say animated.
He says animated.
That's what an attack might look like. Or let's say he's trying to control me through a grip.
So now there's a grab. It's called katate dori.
Or on the other side. Or maybe he's trying to control me from the shoulders from behind.
Reverse grip from behind. Again, notice Justin's energy in the attack too. The attacks, in my opinion too, if I may add, is much like weightlifting. In order to increase our strength, the more weight we apply, the more force we apply, the more we can learn the technique.
If we can understand then what an attack looks like, or the concept, we can take a look at receiving, not blocking, but receiving and, might I say, playing with the energy that's given. So that when I have that, I can blend with that energy and send the attack on its way.
Would you call that a technique, Sensei?
Yes.
Thank you. That was my next question. What does a technique look like? So Sensei, another question. We hear a lot about chi or ki in the martial arts. Another way of maybe looking at it is energy, and you've said that a couple of times. Could you explain what it means to understand ki in the process of training in a martial art like Aikido?
So ki, Tom, would be the focus on the energy rather than the mechanistic nature of the technique, muscles and strength. We're not looking at those, but we're taking a look at the quality and the qualities of the different aspects of the energy that's put into the technique. Does that make any sense to you? Okay, thanks.
One final question. And before I ask this question, I forgot to ask you out there, if you have maybe one or two questions for us up here, I'd ask you to come up in a few minutes after he's finished with this last question. How long? Okay.
We don't answer dating questions.
Okay. How long have you been training, and what keeps you coming into the mat, into the dojo to train and to teach?
I've been training now for 47 years. And what brings me, I haven't been attacked yet. I'm waiting for somebody to attack me, and it just doesn't happen. Dang it. Okay. But a long time, and what brings me back again and again and again is the joy of training. Just the joy.
Excellent. Thank you, Sensei. Do you have any questions out there? Yes. Now, we do not take audience participations. Don't ask to come up on the mat, please, okay? Yes.
In your beginning years, did you ever want to use this for different stuff? Like to hurt someone else or something like that? When you thought about it?
Good question. A lot of people start their martial arts practice because of self-defense. Says,
All the way through.
never, just for the joy of training. Any other questions? Yes.
So what's different this year that got you up on the stage instead of from the back? What did they pay you, or what's?
Good question.
I feel best hiding behind trees.
He feels best hiding behind trees. Believe me, we've pressured Sensei quite a bit over the last years, and he's finally caved in. And I believe this will be one of many more on the mat. All right. So, more adult practice. Onegaishimasu. Believe it or not, Aikido may look like fighting, but it's not fighting. In my words, to me, the practice of Aikido is developing courage, which is the best way to fight fear. I like to say that the whole process of doing a technique is about accepting what's happening, the attack itself, encouraging the attack, if you can believe that, and then taking it over. It's a life lesson we could all use in any aspect of what we do, even if you're in business. So what you're seeing now is a technique called Swati Waza. Swate means on your knees or kneeling or sitting in Japanese. In the day of the samurai, it was important to be on one's knees a lot of the time, especially when you're in presence of someone who has higher authority. One cannot rise any higher than them. So techniques needed to be learned from this position. It's a great way to open up one's hips and to learn core strength and movement from what we call our hara, which is located about 2 inches beneath our navel. And really, that's where all movement starts. Even in Swatiwaza, many of the movements you see come from the use of the sword or other weapons like that. In the words of the founder of Aikido, Moriya Yoshiba, the spiritual significance, and yes, there's a spiritual significance of this practice, and of using the sword would be not to have to draw the sword. Now, we don't have tournaments in Aikido, or what we would call formalized competition. Believe me, there is a bits of competition on the mat. That still exists. But we don't get a trophy for it. So this is called Hamihandachi. You see that the attacker is standing, and the one who's defending is on their knees yet. So what you see happening, they're applying a technique called kodigaishi, which is wrist out turn. And yes, it is very effective. We take this thing called ukemi. The person that's attacking takes a fall when they feel that the pressure applied is more than they can bear. They wouldn't want to stand there. Their wrist would be broken. And that allows them to get up again and again and again in practice. And when the kids come out and practice, I'm going to say a little bit more about what that ukemi really means. So we don't really force our partners into a throw. As Sensei was saying earlier, we invite them to a place where they have no choice but to go.